Hello and welcome to my next video. My name is Bronson and today I want to share with you why I believe the Konica 40mm f1.8 is one of the best budget options there is, and why I believe if you have a mirrorless camera, you should absolutely pick one of these up. And then I'll go to some of the reasons why it might not be the best option or some of the drawbacks. Reason number one, you get to sound cool when you tell people what you're using. Oh, what lens is that? Cinematographic prime lens? Vintage? Yeah, got it for real cheap too. So after being able to sound cooler than you actually are, reason number two is it's cheap. I believe I got this for somewhere in the 40 to 50 range. And ever since then, sure, I don't use it every time I'm going out, but it is my favorite lens by far. Another reason is it is extremely sharp, extremely sharp. I want to show some examples here, but man, it's just, the detail is great, the color is great, the sharpness is great, especially at that f1.8. Oh, it's beautiful, and it ranges so well with its sharpness that I've used it for product photography where you need, the f22, everything's in focus, it's still sharp. And also when I'm doing portraits and I need to get something up close with the eyes and really sharpen the eyes, this is my go-to lens. Another reason why I love this lens is because of the scenarios that I can use it in. Going back to the sharpness is that I've used it for a lot of different scenarios. And although it can't be used in every scenario, it's still very versatile. So I've used it for portrait photography with getting sharp eyes. I've used it for product photography where I need that, full frame and focus. But then I can also switch really quick to that f1.8 and get textured, really close up, sharp pictures of certain details of whatever product it is I'm photographing. I've used it for real estate. Of course, it's not wide enough to do houses or rooms very well, but it is good for those more textured shots where you're maybe bringing out the grain of the wood of a table. Another reason is it's that f1.8, of course. Those bokeh balls are so beautiful and smooth, soft, beautiful, and because it's sharp, whatever is in focus is just so crisp, and it looks so nice, and it makes your images look really, really good. Another reason is that build quality. It feels just great, it's sturdy, it feels strong, it's made with metal. Just feels like it's durable. Now for some of the drawbacks for this lens. One, you need an adapter. I got this off Amazon somewhere. It was only like 20 bucks. Let's see if I can get this. The Fotassi AR722. I shoot with the Sony A7 II, so pick this up, 20 bucks. You'll need an adapter of sorts depending on what kind of camera you have. But it has to be mirrorless, which brings me to drawback number two. I remember reading somewhere that maybe some SLRs can use it depending on the adapter. I don't really know much about that. All I know is it's definitely much easier to do and more widely available for mirrorless, so you almost need a mirrorless camera. Okay, the next reason why this lens may not be the best in every scenario is it's well known that it has a lot of lens flares and a lot of ghosting aberration. So for example, whenever I'm shooting in direct sunlight outside, it almost always gets lens flares, especially at f1.8. Normally jumping that up to 2.8 can get rid of that, but sometimes you don't want to make that sacrifice for whatever reason. This lens flaring happened at night too. In this example where I was shooting in my room with some Christmas lights, you see the lens flares, and I was able to get rid of them by jumping it up to 2.8. But then something that you'll notice is the bokeh balls turned into more of these like hexagon looking things. They're no longer round, which I mean is cool, but it's definitely not what I'm looking for all the time. And also, another thing that I can explain, which it did not get rid of by stopping up to f2.8, is with these Christmas lights, for example, and it's happened before, that these other little, and I'll highlight them, but they look like these little dots of light that were caused. Another reason is these aberrations, these purple haloing effect or ghosting effect, which happen both at low light, so at night, and also during daylight, as you can see. So this one here was done in the middle of the day, and the picture's not great, don't get me wrong, but it's just more to highlight that in these spots of really bright lights, you get this purple haloing effect, which most of the times you could get rid of by jumping up to f2.8 or higher. Also, when it starts to get into those lower light situations, and then you have these highlights of, street light or a car light, it happens even worse, as shown by this example. So again, by jumping up to f2.8 or higher, you can remedy that, but that's not always the sacrifice you want to make. Another drawback, which could be seen as a perk depending on the situation, is it's full manual. So you need to manually be adjusting the aperture, you need to manually be adjusting the focus, which, you know, if you're doing like sport or action photography, where you really need to get those fast focuses where you maybe can't do that by hand, then yeah, it's, you know, probably not a great option for you. And lastly, it is a prime lens. So even though it does have several uses and you can use it in different scenarios, the fact that it's a fixed focal length, 40 millimeters, and you can't change that, does inhibit you in some situations, like where you need to zoom. The only way you're going to zoom is if you can move your feet. So that does limit its usability in some ways.